Welcome back to our journey through the fascinating world of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime's Light Novel. Let's continue from the last part, where we left.
Now Benimaru presented a third sheet, signaling a shift in the discussion. This sheet listed forces associated with individuals other than himself. Rimuru was intrigued. The previous sheets merely outlined existing forces and their numbers, with Gaba leading the first core, a suggestion that came from Rimuru. Glancing at the new sheet, Rimuru felt a sense of anticipation, eager to see what it contained. What Rimuru saw were two diagrams labeled as the left and right wings. The right wing showed numbers for their established core, about 12,000 for the first core under Gapta, 37,000 for the second under Geld, and 3,000 for the third under Gable, totaling around 52,000. This constituted Tempest's main force, which was impressively large. Rimuru noted that there was still room for growth, especially considering Tempest's rapidly increasing population, which had recently surpassed 1 million. This growth was crucial for maintaining such a sizable army. Rimuru acknowledged the importance of treating the Second Corps as more than just a combat unit, as their contributions to construction helped sustain the force. Without Geld and his soldiers, the army would be significantly smaller, posing a challenge in facing the Eastern Empire, an issue that Rimuru and Benimaru pondered over. In their talk, Benimaru was worried that their army wasn't big enough and that they were too dependent on the groups they already had. They thought about bringing Geld and his group back if a war started, but knew that wouldn't be all they needed. Benimaru pointed out that getting help from the Western nations could cause trouble and might leave them without a way to handle problems at home. Rimuru understood this and thought about how it could affect their control over Tempest if the Western nations didn't listen to them. Benimaru's idea for a fix was to use the troops listed on the left side of the paper, which included 150,000 soldiers ready to go west and another 50,000 from the Magic-born United and Volunteer Army. Rimuru was surprised to see so many troops listed for the Western Deployment Force and asked Benimaru what they were all about. Benimaru said these troops were under their orders, working for the council and paid by them. But Rimuru knew the truth was that this group was mostly made up of knights and soldiers from the Western nations, and there were only about 1,000 of them. Their main job was to keep things safe, especially at the big arena in Inglis's capital. All the countries in the Western nations had their own armies to keep peace inside their borders, and the council didn't use its own soldiers very often. Rimuru wanted military rights more to help build magitrain tracks between countries than to be in charge of these soldiers when trouble came. So, they decided to send the soldiers who were working for the council back to their own countries for now. They decided to create a peacekeeping force and pay for it themselves. They hired people from the local area to make sure everyone was okay with it, choosing humans over monsters and demi-humans. They wanted to have a peacekeeping force, but they didn't expect so many people to come because of the free food and a place to stay. They wondered if they really needed such a big group since the peacekeepers were supposed to help in disasters and support from behind, not act like the police. Benimaru said that all the countries wanted this force because of some big changes made by Testarossa, who now led the council. These changes were about letting each country lead with some help from the council, like advice and technology, similar to when countries help each other out. The council paid for big projects, and Tempest provided workers to help their friends in other countries. This helped the people of Tempest get jobs and money, and it was also good for their friends. But there were some rules. Tempest got back the money they spent by taking control of local water and making people pay taxes when they used the trains they built. This might look nice, but it was actually a sneaky move, like something a demon lord would do. Still, the good things that happened for people and the help it gave to other countries made it worth it. Big countries might want to do everything themselves, but they might start doing things like Tempest if they see it works well, which could lead to them copying each other and competing later on. Benimaru said that big countries keep pushing Tempest to build railways fast, so they sent people to help with the work. But there weren't enough of them, so they had to hire locals, which made their army bigger. Rimuru let Testarossa make decisions about talking to other countries on their own, which meant they could hire lots of people without asking first. Rimuru thought that teaching people from other places how to do things themselves was a good idea because it would help them get better and do their own thing. This might mean giving up some local benefits, but the new technology and the chance for everyone to try to be the best were seen as good things. Rimuru didn't think the technicians would be easy to replace. Benimaru then shared that he moved all the helpers Testarossa had gathered into the Western deployment. He didn't want to waste their skills, so he made a big peacekeeping team that could do lots of things like saving people from disasters and practicing to protect the city. Rimuru agreed with this plan and saw how good it could be. Benimaru didn't make a big deal out of the compliments, but Rimuru knew that having these troops all over the West was important. It was a surprise, but definitely something to be happy about. So next up, Rimuru inquired about the Magic-Born United, a force of 30,000 mainly comprising Magic-Born who served under Clayman. Benimaru explained that Geld had them working as prisoners of war, and they were being integrated into the force while High Orcs replaced them in construction projects. Rimuru expressed concern about their cooperation, given their previous allegiance to Clayman and their lack of combat training. However, Benimaru assured him that Geld had ensured their discipline and willingness to serve, emphasizing their eagerness to prove their usefulness to Rimuru. Rimuru found it surprising but appreciated their enthusiasm, understanding the importance of willing and capable forces in battle. Nobody likes being controlled by another country. If you're being taken over and heavily taxed, you might pretend to obey but secretly hope for a chance to fight back. However, unless the invaders are really cruel, some people might tolerate the situation for a while. It's important for rulers to consider the feelings of the people they govern, and people need to take charge of their own future. That's why forcing people into military service is a terrible idea. Rimuru believe in protecting Tempest and won't bow to outsiders' demands. If they won't respect their rights, it could lead to war, which Rimuru want to avoid. He prioritized the safety of his loyal companions who helped him to build this nation. Anyone who joined later and talks about their own rights won't get the same level of protection. But if they love Tempest like he do, he'll defend it with all his strength, even against powerful foes like Guy. The Magic-Born United includes volunteers from the Forest of Jura who heard about the upcoming war and wanted to help. Benimaru made sure to select the strongest ones for the force, which Rimuru happy about. The volunteer army, comprised mainly of adventurers and mercenaries, demonstrated their loyalty by joining forces with Tempest to prevent the potential destruction of the Forest of Jura. Although some members were inexperienced dungeon explorers, their total number reached 20,000, forming a considerable force. In contrast, the forces on the right wing pledged unwavering allegiance to Rimuru and Tempest, while those on the left wing had varied motivations. Benimaru explained the distinction, emphasizing the need for leaders to command each force effectively, signaling the beginning of the crucial decision-making process. Benimaru proposed keeping the Western deployment of 150,000 members stationed in their current locations due to their affiliation with the Council and the logistical challenges of moving such a large force. Despite having the ability to magically transport them if needed, the lack of a unified command structure could hinder their effectiveness. Testarossa, the diplomatic officer, was suggested to oversee them. However, concerns arose about maintaining communication in the event of war. Diablo assured that Moss, with the capability to manage multiple squadrons simultaneously, could handle communication with the dispersed force. Yes, Moss seems capable of managing inter-squadron contacts. Benimaru concurred, highlighting Moss's versatility. Despite Moss's suitability for the leadership role, there was a sense of reluctance to burden him with it. Eventually, it was decided to appoint Testarossa as the provisional leader of the Western deployment, acknowledging Moss's involvement in intelligence gathering. As for the Magic-Born United, there was a suggestion to appoint Sir Rieger, considering his leadership experience and formidable power. However, there were concerns about Rieger's existing responsibilities as Rieger's assistant, casting doubt on his availability to lead a full army. Rimuru wanted to end the coming war with the troops they already had, but not knowing how strong the Eastern Empire's army was made things tricky. They guessed the Empire might send out 300,000 to over 1 million soldiers, so they had to get the Magic-Born United ready. Rimuru trusted Benimaru to lead this mixed group and thought of calling them the Red Numbers. He picked leaders from Team Kurenai to be captains and formed the 4th Army Corps under Benimaru. Rimuru even made a little joke, saying they called them the Red Numbers because they'd stop any enemy that came at them. As the briefing continued, Rimuru accepted Benimaru's appointment as leader of the Red Numbers, impressed by his readiness and unique skill. With Benimaru's born leader ability, he was deemed suitable to lead such a diverse force. However, the issue of the volunteer army posed a challenge, particularly due to its large human contingent. Benimaru worried that appointing a monster as commander might lead to dissatisfaction among them. Xian dismissed such concerns, but Rimuru acknowledged the importance of maintaining a positive image and recognized the need for careful consideration to avoid any perception of discrimination.
That's it for today, guys, and thank for watching the video. Stay tuned for next chapter. Until then, goodbye.